and zoom in. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Welcome, we're glad that you're here. Welcome, we're glad that you're here. Today will be a joyful day. So enter, rejoice, and zoom in.
Welcome, everybody, to Good Morning today. I'm Pat Harris, your worship coordinator. Our speaker today is Sarah Gillespie, who all of you, or many of you know. Sarah is a board-certified chaplain and a UU minister, and currently she's working in hospice up in Maine, where she lives. She says she's in Maine now after a few lovely years in Rochester. She's with her spouse Adam and her 2-year-old Luke, and she shared with me that when she's not ministering, she enjoys learning ukulele. I guess we should have had her do some music today. Baking, exploring Maine, and she enjoys chasing a toddler. Welcome to our Zoom service at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. UUCC is a congregation that fosters personal and spiritual growth through religious exploration in search of the truth, while celebrating diversity and affirming the worth and dignity of every person. And we are so glad that you are joining us today. I have an announcement. I have one announcement. It's a reminder about the upcoming trivia night. Winners of each of the 3 rounds of the trivia night will receive a basket full of UUC goodies donated by board members. Scarlett Miles and her daughters, Danielle and Tom Lyon, Nancy Reed, Lynn Overgard, Megan Cable, and Rita Carey have donated things for these baskets. Each basket has UUCC gear, like water bottles, homemade bread, that's not UUC gear, Starbucks coffee, homemade pot holders, gift certificates to the Waste Not Shop in Geneva, and some UU books. So if you're interested, please do find out more on our webpage and in our newsletters about trivia night and how you can participate in it. I think it will be fun for you if you're a trivia buff. Bluff. All right. That's all the announcements. Now we will enter a space of worship.
Good morning. I know I can't hear the good morning back. It's strange. It is so wonderful to be with you all, to see so many beautiful, familiar faces. I'm very grateful to be with you this morning. So let's light our chalices. If you have one at home, feel free to bring it onto your screen. And I've got mine here, which was made by someone in the congregation, as well as my stole. I'm really loving all my UUCC gear. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And our opening words this morning come from Nadine McSaden. During our darkest hours, still there is hope. When facing our biggest challenges, still there is hope. When all we can do is put one foot in front of the other, still there is hope. When we can't find the way out, still there is hope. When all we can do to help is to wear a mask, still there is hope. We are the hope for ourselves and for one another. Always there is hope. And please join together now in singing our opening hymn, number 40, Morning Hangs a Signal.
Now it is time for sharing our joys and sorrows. We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. Please share your joys and sorrows in the chat box, in Zoom, or in the comment section if you're with us on YouTube. Know that whatever your heart is holding today, we are with you. We are today all glad that Sarah is here with us. A lot of comments on that. We're also happy because Erin is starting a new leadership program because she's probably a born leader. And that surgery's behind us now that we talked about last week, and I'm assuming the person is doing very well. We also have hope for healing and a report of self-care by a teen with no need for encouragement by adults in the aftermath of our Capitol storming. And so that sounds like positive hope for the future. For the joys and sorrows shared and those held in your heart, know that we are with you. We hold these and all the biggest feelings of our heart together. Now is the time for our offering. You know that offering is an important spiritual practice for our church, and the practice of generosity helps us continue to do our work in these times when work is really needed. If you would like to give to this morning's offering, you can give online at canandaiguauu.org and connect. You can put in connect or it'll let you connect. Or you can physically mail a check to the church. In either case, note that you'd like your gift to go for today's Sunday offering, and if so, we will share 25% of it with our monthly service partner. I will in a few minutes be adding that information into the chat box so that if you've forgotten how to contact us, you can do that. Now we need to enter into our time of centering and shared silence.
Please join with me in a spirit of contemplation and prayer. Spirit of life, God of love, this has been a week. Our hearts feel heavy. The burdens of our daily lives and those of the nation weigh on us. They frighten us, they sadden us, they anger us. May we find peace within us, between us, and beyond us in the days to come. May we find healing. May we decide to stick with love, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. Remind us of his words that love is ultimately the answer to humankind's problems. We've seen enough hate, we've seen enough discord, enough argument, and we have felt enough of everything. We pray this morning not because we believe that prayer makes a being in the sky choose differently. We pray because it changes us. It causes us to pause, to remember our highest values and how we want to act on them. And we pray together because it gives us more strength than being alone. And we pray in this place, albeit a virtual gathering, because this is the place where we come to express our deepest fears, challenge our deepest biases, and comfort our deepest wounds. And while we may acknowledge that we don't know where prayers go, we still choose to lift them up, knowing that we're better for it. So we pray for all those who felt their lives in danger this week at the Capitol, for those injured, and for the 4 souls who lost their lives to such a horrible tragedy. And we do give thanks for the helpers, whether it was their job or not, who stepped up and did what was right to protect those among them. We pray for those who continue to feel the effects of this pandemic, whether ill with COVID, grieving a loss, isolated at home, or separated from those who bring them life. We seek peace together in this place, even for just a moment, in these times which are unlike any other, in this moment that only comes but once. And we join our hearts and our spirits in this sacred time, honoring what is on each of our hearts in this moment of shared silence.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading this morning comes from Exodus chapter 3. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked at the bush, and it was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and see this great sight, and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called him from the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Stand still. The trees ahead of you and bushes beside you are not lost. These are the words of one of my favorite poems, introduced to me by my dad, but written by David Wagoner, appropriately entitled Lost. I'll share them in full at the close of the sermon. And they sound pretty nice, but they didn't actually help me when I was lost. I was in Kenya, which that sounds like a good place for me to get lost, but it gets better. I was in a rural village on a trip my study abroad program took for about 10 days to a small village near Mombasa called Takaungu. We arrived, we got settled in with our host families, and then we decided to walk around the village, watch the sunset, you know, that beautiful yellow that turns to orange, to red, to that dusky pink. And then it was getting dark, so we knew we had to head back to where we were all spending the night. Being confident 21-year-olds, we set out in the directions we thought we should go, and eventually I split off from the group thinking I'd found my way home. Wrong. That wasn't the right house, but it looked just like it. Thatched roof, mud walls, coconut tree in the front yard, so to speak. But that wasn't my homestay family. Retrace my steps, try again to get where I needed to go. Getting darker now. My Swahili language skills weren't really cutting it. Starting to panic a bit. I round another corner. Wait, I swear I just passed that tree. A few more steps, and I know that's the same kiosk I went by 10 minutes ago. I let fear get the best of me, and my eyes watered, and I started to cry, softly dragging my feet until I found a place to sit. I was lost. No other word for it, just physically lost. In a place that felt foreign to me, in a place where I didn't know right from left, in a place where I couldn't use my voice to even communicate where I needed to go, even if there was someone to listen. I found a stoop and I sat down. I let myself cry a minute. And as I started to wipe away my tears and the dust and dirt from my skirt, a woman walked toward me, the director of the study abroad program. And she looked at me with a very understanding smile and helped me find my way. And I'm happy to report I never got lost in Takaungu again. I did get stung by a sea urchin the next day, but that's a whole nother sermon. So I trust I'm not alone in getting lost. Whether you have a good sense of direction or not, you've likely been lost at some point in your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And while wandering off in unfamiliar territory is one thing, I'm thinking about the kind of loss that we feel when we actually know where we are. Our feet are right in front of us, but our hearts and minds can't be found on a map. Maybe it's when you've ended a relationship and restarted life on your own. It could be when you took a new job and moved somewhere new. It could have been choosing to retire and letting go of something that used to define part of your for you might mean not knowing what's next or what the future might bring. For the patients I work with, some feel lost in their diagnosis and feel they lose themselves to their diseases. And like many of you, I have felt lost this week, seeing the country attacked and democracy threatened. These experiences and many more remind us that not all lostness can be solved with GPS. I think we know we are living in one of those experiences today and over the last 10 months. We're in a lost season where the map is no help. The pandemic of COVID-19 has come with a myriad of losses and lost feelings, none of which our smartphones can fix. The systemic racism that America runs on is finally being cracked open, yet we have no map for what the future might bring or what path we follow to get there. This is a time of communal lostness, of fear, of uncertainty, of bone-wearying fatigue. The compass is spinning and we don't know which way is north. And unlike many other incidents of being lost, we don't know when this will end. When will we know our way out of this place? When will there be regular school again? Will my friend lose his job? Will I be able to get the vaccine? Will our grandkids forget our faces? Will we be lonely forever? Will our siblings of color continue to suffer in a system we know is broken? What is important in the midst of this difficult valley? And how does our faith guide us through this time? Enter Moses. What a guy. He is one of my favorite biblical characters. If the Bible were a TV show, the part of Exodus we're looking at is where Moses goes from starring in The Crown to being a contestant on The Survivor. So we pick up in this chapter 3 of the Moses saga, and he's in the middle of the desert after accidentally killing someone and fleeing his home. So talk about some feeling lost and disconnected. The text from our Jewish ancestors tells us that Moses took a job tending sheep for his new father-in-law out in the middle of nowhere. And Moses is out there one day, just like many others, doing his job in the hot sun, in that desert sand and stone, probably covered in sheep muck, just trying to get his herd to stick together and move from place to place. This is the part of the show where a lot of people want to fast forward. But then something catches his eye. We hear that spooky yet riveting music, a burning bush that is somehow not burning up. Out in the middle of his new life, in this phase of feeling lost and likely disconnected, Moses willingly takes another detour. He turns aside, as we hear in our reading, and he gets another look at what has caught his eye. And it's in this turning aside that he hears God speak to him. And God tells Moses that he is being called to bring liberation and justice for his people. But before we fast forward to hero time, Moses is called to pay attention to the ground where he stands in that moment. Barbara Brown Taylor, wonderful minister and author, professor, in her book An Altar in the World, writes that this is the essence of Moses. She writes, the bush required Moses to take a time out. And later in that same chapter, she writes, quote, what made him Moses was his willingness to turn aside. Wherever else he was supposed to be and whatever else he was supposed to be doing, he decided it could wait a minute. Moses could have decided he'd come back tomorrow and see if the bush was still burning when he had a little more time, only then he would not have been Moses. He would have just been some guy who got away with murder without discovering whatever else his life might have been about. End quote. As Unitarian Universalists, I sometimes worry that we are eager to skip over the grounding holy moments and fast forward straight to the liberation and justice calling. And to be true to our ancestors, we are actually called to do both. We are called to balance deep spiritual searching and holy reverence with our social justice work. We cannot have one without the other. And the spiritual deepening is what enables us to go on the journey toward creating beloved community, knowing we are in it for the long haul and not just the latest protest picture on Facebook. Just remember, Moses goes to battle with Pharaoh, his former brother, and brings the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, but then they wander for 40 years in the desert again before they reach that promised land. The whole journey is important and valuable for us to learn from, beginning with what happens in Midian to an almost anonymous shepherd. And to be clear, I don't think that COVID is a burning bush. That's not the kind of divine that I believe in. But I also know that I cannot let this crisis go to waste. There must be something here that we need to turn aside and pay attention to. Please don't think I'm trying to silver line this crisis or make lemonade from COVID's lemons. That would be harmful. That would make light of those we have lost to this crisis, and we must not let those lives be lost for nothing. We must learn something from them, yes, but it's not that silver-lined lemonade learning. It's the stop and pause and grieve and reflect type of learning. It's the realization that God, that love is here now in the middle of this. Unlike Moses, we can no longer keep walking by, minding our sheep and carrying on with whatever's our new normal. A lot of times in life, we had the choice to not turn aside. There might have been a burning bush, fiery symbol of change, or an epiphany in our lives, and we've said or thought, oh, I'm kind of busy. I don't want to deal with that right now. Or now's really not a good time for change. Typically, our society advocates that we strive for efficiency, progress, and achievement, and that we hurry up about it. And before COVID, we likely passed burning bushes in our own lives because they weren't a good use of our time, not productive enough, perhaps. But this pandemic has taken away our agency in choosing when to stop and turn aside. It's almost like a burning forest rather than a bush. And it's blocking our path, and we cannot choose to look away from what's going on in front of us. We are called to pause here. We've been commanded to stop, something most of us don't do very well, maybe including and especially ministers. We cannot stop the work of justice, but we can reflect inwardly about what this moment is revealing for us. What do you see clearly now that you didn't before the pandemic? Who and what do you miss? What brings you the most meaning day in and day out? In this time of feeling lost, where do you turn? What is most important to you right now that wasn't as visible before? Feeling lost is stressful, scary, and humbling, to say the least, but it has reminded me that I am not alone in this. And while physically isolated from most people, this pandemic reminds us how deeply we actually need each other and how utterly connected and interdependent our world is. We are not separate and never have been. We are intimately woven together as human beings. And therefore, it is important for us as co-conspirators in this shared liberal religion to turn aside and recognize what we could not see before, whether it be our neighbors, our enemies, our communities, our coworkers, our own parents, our children. Stopping and paying attention is the holy spark of hope that I see in this desert. We have the power to know each other again and to be known. I think of the small group that I take part in each week through my church in Maine. We call it a caring circle. They started after we went virtual. They are a powerful reminder of this, and it kind of mirrors somewhat to the Soul Matters that we used to do when I was a part of your congregation. And I didn't know my circle friends on Zoom when we first began last March or April. And sure, I'd pass them in church and, you do that, hi, little greeting from time to time, but it wasn't much more than that. And now, having met every week for the better part of a year, I feel a deep connection to them, and they feel like neighbors and friends. And because several live nearby, I know that these are the people I can count on to help if I ever get physically lost again. So, who or what do you know now that you didn't before the pandemic? Are you gaining wisdom and insight into your own soul, or taking time to know new people through church? Are you rediscovering a meaningful hobby or piece of self care? Are you trying a new spiritual practice like prayer, meditation, singing, baking? Are you listening with the voice of the holy in our midst? Imagine what our community would look like if we did these things. If we all took that time intentionally to turn aside, to watch what catches our eye right now, what is right in front of us, waiting to be seen, waiting to be known. What would our world look like if we stopped more often and deepened our spirituality? And how would our movement change and grow if our spiritual roots grew as deeply as our justice branches reached out? To me, it would look like this. All the smiles I see on Zoom, having someone wink above their mask, that person in front of me at the drive-through paying for coffee, the one tiny squash that grew in my garden this summer, friends from afar sending snail mail, and the souls that I journey with showing up week after week to learn and grow and laugh and love side by side. These are the things that remind me that I'm not so lost after all, or if I am, I can find my way again. In closing, these are the relevant words of the poet David Wagner. Stand still. The trees ahead of you and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen, it answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven, and no two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. May it be so. Amen.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the
May we return to ourselves this day, pausing and turning aside to see what needs to be seen, remembering that we are all in this together and building a land from that holy ground. May it be so. And let us join together in singing the hymn, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like the waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like the waters, peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like the waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come, build the land, my people, we sing. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like the waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Please join me. Oh, can you see me? Ah. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.